hello. Sorry for that awkward start there. Just getting adjusted. So, welcome, fellow Stardust. I just got done watching the Midnight Meat Train in the Monster Fam Discord server. We have lots of folks here in the chat who finished the movie with us as well. I've got some very special guests from the Monster Fam Discord server that will be joining me to talk about this bloody gore fest. So, first here we have got Chris. Welcome, Chris. Welcome. So, Chris is actually one of the founders of the Monster Fam, which I found when I started my YouTube channel just about 2 years ago. And as a lot of you may know, I just reached 1K subscribers. And this group is one of the reasons why I have reached this momentous milestone. So, welcome, Chris, to my channel finally. How you doing?
Good. Listen, we had nothing to do with you getting to trust me.
Of course you did, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes. And one of the other creators we have next is going to be of the Monster Fam is Frank. What's up, Frank? Welcome.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is awesome. Thanks so much for getting this together. It was so much fun watching the movie, and I'm sure it's going to be just as much fun talking about it.
Oh yes. I'm so excited to get down to the nitty-gritty of this little, I want to say masterpiece, but it kind of is a masterpiece. Why
Yeah,
not give
in
it
its way.
five those goals? I mean, in its way, it's a masterpiece. All right, and next we have a new Monster Fam member, and she goes by the name of Lady Shasha. What's up, Lady Shasha? Over there reading a little book.
Oh, hi. I was trying to finish reading the Midnight Meat Train.
Oh, there you go.
I'm on the last page.
Hey, yes. I was like, I still haven't read it all these years. I love this movie and I still haven't read it, but I need to. So there you go. You've already got it done here in this little break we had.
It's fairly short. It's only like maybe 20 pages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started during the movie, a little bit during the movie, but which was a feat because I have ADHD and to try to read something while listening to something, it's just not. I usually can't do that. but I made myself try.
You were determined today because you're like, I like this. I like what I'm seeing. So let me just go ahead and read this real quick because we are going to talk about it.
It only took 2 hours to read 20 pages.
Because I was going to say, you did that in about 20 minutes, but you started a little bit before the break. So that makes more sense. Okay, awesome. I'm excited to hear, your opinions about, the written piece versus the film. So very cool. All right. And the next guest we've got here is another Monster Fam YouTube creator, and that is Albert of Blood and Brews. What's up?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for the invite.
Hell yeah. So actually, I just did a video with Albert on his channel, and we talked about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You can see some of my shorts that link to that video, as well as my community tab page where you'll find that fun video. And he's just doing a series with a bunch of different creators on YouTube talking about a bunch of different 80s horror movies. So definitely check that out. All right. And another OG Monster Fam member we have in the house is going to be KT. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome. Yeah, good. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so KT is also another OG Monster Fam member. I met him along with Chris and Frank, and like I was saying before, this whole entire group just supports all of its YouTube content creators that join this family of just horror lovers, because a lot of us don't have people in real life to talk about horror movies with. So when I was looking for people to find a community of people to talk about horror films with, they're one of the first that I found and have just been so much fun to hang out with every week, because in the Monster Fam Discord, we screen and watch movies together and chat together, in the server, and watch movies on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but typically it's like almost 7 days a week. It's whenever people feel like throwing something on the screen. So it's a lot of fun. All right, so let me come over here real quick and see who we have in the chat. Let me go ahead and pull this up. We've got B-Man in the house. What's up, Brandon? What's up? We've also got, let's see. I haven't seen this name before.
Londoner, belligerent Londoner.
There you go. What's up? What's up? Welcome, welcome. I appreciate you being here this evening. And we've got The View with Drew. What's up, Drew? Thanks for being here tonight. And we've got The Living Bug. Thanks for coming over. He was actually over in the Discord server watching the Midnight Meat Train with us. So welcome, welcome. And what's up, Mo? She's also no. She's also an OG member of the Monster Fam. She's always popping in and out, watching movies with us. And we've also obviously got the Monster Fam in the house. What's up? What's up? And Hazy. What's up, Hazy? I actually just met Hazy today. Hello, hello. How you doing? And we've also got Night Beast. Welcome, Night Beast. Welcome to my channel. Oh, is that Davis? Is that Davis? Is that who that is?
Davis.
Okay, okay. Awesome. And Tony Man. We've got Tony Man in the house. What's up? What's up?
Is that Tony Todd or not?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
That's actually, yep.
In the Discord.
I won't give away who that is. I'll let the people give away who that is. And then let's see who else we got. We got Mr. Dan, one of my lovely patrons. What's up, Dan? Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here this evening. All right. So as we let some more people trickle into the chat here, before we get too into the nitty gritty of things, whoever wants to answer this question first, go right ahead. So who had seen the movie before? And if you had or hadn't, what did you feel about it when you first saw it? And how did you feel about it today after seeing it for the second, third, fourth, or fifth time?
I'd never seen this movie, and I thought it was a trip just because it comes out with that first scene, and it's pretty gory and in your face. So I actually really enjoyed it for that reason.
Yes.
Did you raise your hand to talk first? I'm sorry. You raised that fake hand to talk first.
This is the first time I've seen any of you guys besides DeRay. So it's like, man, like I'm used to seeing like other types of little faces and stuff where you guys look like different.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Listen,
I'm sorry, Shasha. I think I interrupted you.
I should go get it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I have a funny story about Tony Todd. Just remind me to tell it when you. But I
got a point to remind you. So yes, don't worry. I'll come back to that. I'll remind you at a certain point. Yep. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Who's gone?
I thought she was saying something. Go ahead, Chris.
She might have been. I don't know. Sasha, were you saying something?
Oh no, I was just all I was going to say is that I've seen it before, and I guess I should answer the question. I thought I was bored the first time I watched it, but I can appreciate it way more now. I think maybe my brain finally matured, but I thought it was great tonight. I don't know why I used to think it was boring when it really isn't.
When did you first see it?
When it first came out. Whenever it first came out.
2008. Okay.
Yeah,
it's a good group view. You know, it's good to watch with the group and make fun of and be a little bit shocked. And I saw it as soon as it came out because, like I kept on saying in chat, I'm a huge fan of the director Ryuhei Kitamura, who did Versus and Azuki and Alive. He did a Godzilla movie, and then this was his first English language movie, and so I was like fanboying out crazy when it came out, and it did it for me. Like I totally like. I mean, this movie, it's not to what we kept pointing out. There's a little bit of bad CGI. It's like it's kind of, you could feel that it's made by someone who doesn't understand America, but it's like it's almost done in a way where it's like picturesque America in a weird way. So I don't know. There's a lot about this movie that really just fucking did it for me, and so I was like. There's very few movies that I'm super excited for before they come out, and then I'm just as excited after they came out, and this was one of them.
Awesome.
Frank took the Subway thing personal. That's what happened.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was like...
No, I felt the same way. This is the second time that I've seen it since it first came out, and I liked it a lot better this time around. Definitely appreciated it more. I don't know. First time I saw it, I felt the same. Like it was kind of maybe like a step down from the mainstream horror, and But now that I watch without being so judgmental, definitely
there you go.
When I first saw it, I kind of got lost in the crowd with me, like with all the saws and everything else that was coming out at the time. But now it was, I enjoyed it a lot. It's just the CGI effects thing, the video game looking stuff just kind of takes me out of it. And then when it went supernatural, it kind of took me out of it too.
Sure. It was brutal. I mean, I loved how brutal it was. They didn't hold back with really anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a good twist at the end. A good, you know.
The twist.
And everybody was good in it too, you know. Bradley Cooper.
It wasn't a bad twist, but you know.
Right. I like.
Yeah, when it first came out for me, I absolutely fell in love with it right away because of things like Saw and Hostel. I was obsessed with those types of movies because for me, I like movies that are more grounded in reality and more like psychological thrillers, not necessarily slashers, but those end up being in my, you know, group of favorite movies because they are so realistic. And I just loved how we had this basically like melodrama tone mixed with this supernatural tone as well, because, you know, with Saw and Hostel, it stayed pretty real throughout. But then when we got this thing that I'm not totally, you know, a huge fan of, and I liked it, I was just like, okay, well, this movie just won me over. I don't even gravitate toward that kind of movie making, but these roles coming together was just the best thing for me. And at the time, I didn't even realize in 2008 that it was an adaptation of Clive Barker's, you know, short story. My only, you know, real interest in him at the time was Hellraiser. And so I just appreciated it that much more, watching it more and more, and, you know, becoming just a more knowledgeable film lover and maker. I'm like, oh, okay, now this all makes sense because I love, you know, a bunch of other stuff that he's done as well. So yeah, I think this is one that I think if you liked it a little bit the first time or had a little bit of a grudge against it for whatever reason, you might come around to it more, you know, 10 years later. Definitely. So yeah,
I could see it feeling cheap compared to Hostel and Saw or whatever. So if people came into it like with this like whole, I mean, you know, Texas Chainsaw, the remake had just came out. I mean, all these movies that were like $200 million movies that just came out. And so this was like what, like a $15 million budget movie. And I'm just making numbers up, but like it was probably significantly cheaper to make, and it looks it. And so if you don't really get
they
down
definitely cut the budget.
And if you don't really, so if you can't get down on just the rest of the feeling of it, I could see it being a letdown at the time.
Yeah.
And also
with
the name Clive Barker. I'm sorry if there's I might have started talking, but there's might be a delay.
Yeah.
Also with it coming from Clive Barker, I think for me, I was first disappointed because I didn't get that creep factor. Like the first time I watched Hellraiser, I was creeped the hell out. Candyman, I saw that when I was a teenager. I slept with a sheet over my mirror for a week after Candyman. Midnight Meat Train, I was expecting to be similarly creeped out, and I wasn't. But it was still entertaining as far as the gore, because I call myself the gore connoisseur, the blood Goldilocks. I like to see things get cut up. I love the gore aspect of it. I don't even think the CGI blood is as bad. And the reason why I think I feel that way now is because we now have something called Wild Eye Entertainment. And there's like other companies similar to Wild Eye where the bar is so low now that this is like a masterpiece.
Right.
Even with the low, like this to me is not low. It doesn't look low budget to me. Like,
I mean, because in 2008, it was appreciated. I think most of y'all would have been like, all right, maybe one or two of y'all would have been like, and that CGI, but me, like, nah, I was in that hole deep, you know, so I didn't care. But today I'm a little bit more picky.
We have Tubi original movies that make this look like $100 million, you know,
at this point. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
And to Albert's point with the opening, I think this movie really needed that gory opening because, yes, we had these two worlds colliding, and that's an interesting aspect of it. But for us gore hounds, we have to have that opening scene to keep us engaged and wondering where this is going to go, because it's too maybe quote unquote mundane for a while when we're expecting that, and it's taking so long to get there. But it kept us, you know, with the carrot in front of our nose just enough to get to that third act where we do get to the good stuff, you know.
I really wish it would stayed in that gritty kind of groove it was in, though. Like it was just him and this camera and the city and that killer. But I think the supernatural part of it is just I just lost interest a little bit. I don't know why, but
can someone tell me what that was? Like,
what
were those things at the end? I mean, someone said reptile creatures.
Were they demons or something?
Lizard people or
lizard people? Like
so Lady Shasha is gonna help me out with this because she's read the short story now. But before I have her help me out with that, let me just get to the chat really quick. I want to say hello to Terrence. What's up? What's up? Another one of my lovely patrons. And what's up to the Double Feature podcast? Hello, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And Mr. Dan, yes, please say hello to each other and subscribe to each other's channels. Dan also has a very awesome horror channel if you want to check that out. Let's see. Yes, I feel you, Terrence. Thank you for dropping in, and we wish you were here with us today, but he is in Scotland, so he is about to hit his bedtime right now.
All over the world.
Wow. They agree. It is underrated. Yes, it is, ladies. It is so underrated. Thank you for agreeing. Yes. Brandon. Oh, yes. So Bog has seen it before. The universe of it, yes. Brandon says, yes, we'll miss you, Terrence. We always miss Terrence when Terrence is not in her presence. We always do. And Tony Man says, hey, Lady Shasha, nice to see you. Oh, Tony Man cracks me up all
say hello to everybody.
He cracks me up. He cracks me up. Oh, look at this brotherly love. I love it. I love it. I love it. Just getting through some comments here. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Who do we have here? We have Government Cheese. Do we know who Government Cheese is, Monster Man? Who is that?
No, I don't know.
And also, you guys know where his default or there. I don't know what your gender ID is, but the picture on your profile. Do you guys recognize that?
Yes.
That's Baby Nosferatu.
Or was it something like that?
It was Bat Boy. It used to be on the cover of the National Enquirer back in the, I think it was 80s or maybe early 90s, not sure. But there used to be a tabloid newspaper, and they had this creature on the front and said it was Bat Boy, and that they interviewed him.
Listen, I would have definitely bought that if I'd seen it.
We probably could have seen Ted Raimi a couple more times in the movie, and that would have, been a little cooler. But it was cool to see his face.
Yeah, the best part.
Yeah. All right. Popping the popcorns in the house. What's up, Katie? Yes, this is an excellent, excellent movie. After watching it with my patrons, I was like, we just gotta screen this one again. Let's show some more people, because I know more people are gonna appreciate this again the second, third, fourth time around. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. Okay, so is that what they are called? So these creatures apparently are just evil beings. They're even humanoids or some shit, and basically they've roamed the earth since before humans, and they basically are being kept at bay. So they exist in every city. So I get confused when I think about the story, because I read what the story is about, but I haven't read the story, which I probably could have read the story quicker in the time that I read the summaries for it. But basically these things exist in every city, and there's Mahoganies in each city, kind of keeping them at bay, feeding them people from the train. And Mahogany had been doing it since the 1900s, 1800s, and he was kind of deteriorating, and homeboy Leon, Bradley Cooper's character, took over for him as he was becoming weaker and weaker. And once he does his round, he'll be replaced by somebody else. So their job is basically just to keep these things fed, and the police and the conductor are in on this whole gag, essentially. So go ahead, Lady Shasha, and fill in my holes there.
That's about the size of it. The only thing that the short story adds to it is that they referred themselves as the founding fathers, and that they filed their teeth sharp to be able to eat people. So I guess at one point maybe they were human, but since have changed into these things that they are. And to the Living Bog's point, they said, I think it may have been better if we had seen events through the eyes of the butcher. In the short story, it does switch perspectives. Like you'll hear from the lead character's perspective, which he has a different name in the story. I forget what his first name was, but they mention that he's Jewish. I don't know whether that figures into the story, but they mention it like twice, that he's Jewish, and that the butcher is, you know, a guy who looks like he's 45 to 50 years old, but is much, much older because, you know, he's been doing this for years. But I wondered if there was a subtext about like elite people or people running things, like how you have the lizard people. What do you call it?
The Illuminati.
Yeah, that type of thing.
Conspiracy.
Conspiracy. Thank
Right.
you.
Conspiracy. Yeah.
Yes.
When you started it, I knew where you were going.
Yeah. I wondered if Clive Barker's intention was to make that type of connection, but he doesn't really flesh it out too much. Because I mean, it's only 20 pages, so he doesn't flesh that part out that much.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they were it never says that they were human. It just says they looked human, except for they're bald, they're naked, and their teeth are filed.
In the movie, they're supposed to be like depraved humans, like like superhuman, depraved humans, but it's like clearly they're not because they're feeding off of flesh. But that, I think, was what people would refer to them when talking about the movie, is the depraved humans. And I know I wrote down something about
from the story, like when they would feed, like they would like the story, you know, being Clive Barker, they lick the bodies and they rub their hands all in between. Like he literally writes that they rub their hands in between the butt cracks and stuff. And I'm like, this is not necessary.
They should have put it on film.
Yeah.
And when they were removing the teeth and the nails in the Discord chat room, I typed in. Sorry, I hear an echo. Is that me?
Frank.
I typed in the server. I was like, oh, removing the crunchies, but then I deleted it because I was like, I don't want to give anything away because, you know, it describes because they're eating that flesh and they don't want any like crunchy parts. For me, when I'm eating a baked or a baked good, I don't want anything hard in it, like a nut or anything like that. So when they're removing the teeth and the nails, it's like they're removing the nuts from their muffins and cookies, you know. So I took that comment out because I didn't want to give that away.
Speaking of nuts, can I read one part that stood out to me while we were watching, somebody mentioned this in the chat. It's 4 sentences, but they should have put this in the movie. It says, the body hung upside down, swinging back and forth to the rhythm of the train. In unison with its 3 fellows, an obscene dance macabre. Its arms danced loosely from shoulder joints into which gashes an inch or 2 deep had been made, so the bodies would hang more neatly. Every part of the dead kid's anatomy was swaying hypnotically, the tongue hanging from his mouth, the head lolling on its slit neck. Even the youth's penis flapped from side to side. Groin.
I was going to say, to Albert's point in the server while we were watching it, he was like, they're doing such a good job, like keeping that from the camera, but it was being kept so neatly and swaying so, you know, perfectly. So that is so funny. They captured that just awesomely. Hell yeah.
There were a few times where he swung his hatchet in that scene right in between someone's legs and smashed it. So what you said about reaching the hand in between or whatever, I feel like that scene may have kind of been paying homage to it a little, possibly. You know,
Sure.
We didn't get the swaying penis though.
No, they didn't get any of that.
There's a sequel. See, that could be in maybe a sequel.
Is there?
No.
Oh man.
The swaying penis might be the big draw.
So do you think, Lady Shasha, that the stuff they added, like the girlfriend and that chick that he was taking pictures of, do you think that added to make that short story into a long, good film? Do you think that was, you know, they did it right in making it, you know, longer?
I'm not mad at them adding a girlfriend. I don't think it could have went either way. It was unnecessary because in the short story, it's more about the main character, how he would do these little things that would allude to him wanting to be a butcher. Like there's passages about how he held a knife and it just felt right in his hand. So you see like, oh, like even though his character is horrified at what he's seeing the butcher do, a part of him really wants to be the butcher. Then the other side of that they could have fleshed out, I'm not sure how they would have done it without an inner monologue, is the butcher's point of view of he's getting excited that they're writing about him in the newspaper because he's like, a small part of him knows that he needs to stay anonymous. He needs to stay, you know, no one knowing about him, but he feels his job is so important to the founding fathers that he wants recognition for it. So he kind of maybe on a subconscious level slipped up and let them catch him a little bit just so they would write about him in the newspaper.
Wow.
Okay. I like that. So then let me see here. I just had a question at the tip of my tongue. So, okay, yes, there it is. So, Albert, my question to you then is, with Mahogany, knowing that he kind of was a slave to what he was doing, like Leon became at the end of the movie, he was kind of chosen, but he was chosen because he was pursuing the investigation. Do you feel any sympathy toward Mahogany, even though he was seemingly a cold-blooded killer?
I mean, I think he was just doing his job, and after so long, you become, desensitized to it. I just want to know what was growing all over his chest. Was it breaking out? What was that? It was like sea urchins or something like coming off of him.
No, for real. It was like some barnacle type shit.
What was that? Like
fungus? I don't know. Well, see, for me, go ahead.
That's why I'd like to see like a sequel that maybe could answer all the questions. This movie really raised so many questions without answering anything. And it just like, I want to see more of the creature. Like they left so much in the dark and just did, which I appreciate that too, because imagination, right, can just feed into that. But I actually want to know and I want to see more of it.
Because Bradley is still super young looking, and he could totally just pull this sequel and probably third film off, or let him die like Mahogany died in the first film. Let's get our third person, whoever that might be. But for me, I did see the struggle with Mahogany, the internal struggle with him, because yes, he was just carrying out his duty, his job, but I don't think he necessarily liked it, because at first we see him as a cold-blooded killer, but we see him in the mirror kind of struggling with what he has to do that day and having to leave the house and having to go through this routine again. He's not happy and he is mechanical. And I think it was a typo, but Mo was talking about him as a machine, and it makes total sense because that's exactly what he is. That's what he's doing. He's acting as a machine, and he starts to break down like all machines do. And now Leon takes over for him. So that's why for me, when we're in the chat, I'm rooting for him, and it's sad because it's like, he's protecting humankind. He's protecting all of us from these, beings who kind of changed from the short story. I understand, to the movie, they were just a little bit different. They had more powers, I believe, in the short story. And so if they weren't being fed the humans at midnight, or, getting the meat from the midnight meat train, then all of us, would suffer. So it was sad in that way. And we see this guy who had the perfect life. He had an apartment, he had a good girlfriend, and she had connections for him, and he was on his way up in his art and all of that. And he just got sucked into this world because of what Brooke Shields' character tells him. And so, it's kind of sad to see on both ends for Mahogany and for Leon. What do you guys think?
Shouldn't we assume that Mahogany was pulled into it against his will at some point, like Leon?
Right.
So then we have to feel bad for him, and that's what the whole story is showing, is that he was, regretting it, feeling like he didn't want to go to work that day. And at the end, we learned, holy moly, maybe he didn't want to do this to begin with, and he was the hero in a previous story.
Exactly.
And got killed the person who was
more than likely.
It's a very tragic circle of events for sure.
Right. That's something else they changed from the story. In the story, Mahogany loves what he does. He only ends up being usurped because he got too old.
I don't like that. Keep that out. Anyways, go ahead, Chris. No, I'm just kidding.
I like that better, and they didn't show that at all. That's interesting that he loved what he did, and it would almost, I feel like I would appreciate if they added that to the movie, because it would give Mahogany more of a character, whereas he was.
But they totally did that on the opposite, though, on purpose. It seems like, huh? Because it totally seemed like he was struggling. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot that could be in a sequel. I'm surprised because most horror films at that time got sequels. Even the lower budget ones.
This one lost money. That was probably why it didn't.
I think.
Wow.
So to add to that, Clive Barker talks about, how he's upset at one of the Lionsgate producers whose name was on the film The Strangers, and he kind of shunned the Midnight Meat Train because he wanted his movie to kind of get more light. So it was released in dollar theaters and it should have had a wider release, and it just didn't get the marketing and distribution that it deserved. And because of that, along with it maybe turning off some Clive Barker fans because of how different it was from the short story, I think made it kind of not as successful as the other films. But I think other factors came into that too. Like, I know if Bradley Cooper was bigger, if he had done this after The Hangover, man, like people would have wanted so much more Midnight Meat Train. But I think it was just this executive producer and other small factors that really just kept this from happening. But if Clive Barker, rallied, I think we could maybe get it going. That would be awesome.
Well, think about it. We got 4 movies out of Candyman, and that was a short story too.
Yeah, exactly. And Clive Barker loved this.
The first Candyman is a classic. It's
absolutely
insanely good. Trying to compare Midnight Meat Train to Candyman.
We could leave 2 and 3 Candyman away, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But 2 is cool, whatever.
The
but what's also, we
no
bring
good.
up Candyman again, so before I guess I lose it since we've already said it so many times, but isn't it interesting and so fun how Candyman and the Midnight Meat Train are very similar movies? We have 2 characters who are just normal. They've got good lives. They're just not investigating necessarily, but Helen is kind of already investigating, but she's doing a research paper, and Homeboy is trying to get his photography game on, and they both just become so interested in something that it just makes them, it sucks them in, and then they end up both being then the people they were after. I just think that is so fascinating. They have very similar arcs and beat points throughout the movie too, and it's just interesting to see that.
And they're both new to the city in both contexts. In Midnight Meat Train, that character had been living in New York for 3 months. Helen, I don't know whether she's meant to not be from Chicago, but the way she asks questions is like, must not be from
the project. You just loved her on the project. Yeah, that's for damn sure. Yeah, so I just thought that was just so cool, and that might have been my subconscious or whatever, because I loved Candyman from the jump. And just realizing that now, I'm just like, it's basically the same story, just a different setting and different characters. I love that.
That's such a smart pull. I hadn't put that together. Yeah. That's awesome.
So with that being said, and having this idea of who Mahogany is and how he might have, so in the story, apparently he liked doing what he was doing, but in the film, the director definitely portrayed him and had him show us that he didn't want to do this anymore, because anybody could read that from his facial expressions that he just didn't, or maybe he was just tired. Maybe I'm misreading and he was just tired and old. I don't know, right? But with that being said, then we decide, or we try to figure out who is the antagonist. So KT, would you kind of see Brooke Shields' character in a way? Would you kind of see her as an antagonist in the movie because of what she pushes Leon to do?
I think she just moved the story. She was there to move the story along, tell him to dive deeper into his photography and catch more. Don't leave, just stay, capture more. I think she was just there to move the story along. And I wish she was there for more of it, because she was a great character.
Yeah, she definitely added.
It was like she was his conscience in a way. Like we couldn't hear him thinking, so she was the one thinking for him.
Yeah.
There you go.
She was good. Everybody was good in it.
Yeah, the acting and the whole thing was great.
Right. I thought so.
Especially that fight with that bum and the Vinnie's character was great. It made me think of that fight with Roddy Piper and
They Live. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was a more extreme version of that, but less time.
What about you, Albert? What did you think of Brooke Shields' character? Could we leave her out? Was she integral? What did you think about her?
I agree with KT. I think that she just helped push the story a little bit more in the direction that it needed to go. Yeah, I feel like a lot of models when they're like reaching the end of their career, I hate to say it like that, but like they get into like horror movies and you see them play that like little part or do the cameo or whatever. So
Paris Hilton.
Yeah. Because her character isn't in the short story, is that right?
Yeah, there's no love interest, and you don't.
Because he's the art curator chick.
The art,
his,
yeah.
boss.
No. The only characters really in the original are. I never remember the main guy's name. The main photographer guy.
Leon. Yeah. It's a weird name because he's not a Leon. He's just
in the story his name is not Leon. It's crazy. I just read a story and still don't remember his name, but it's just him. There's another passenger on the train that's sleeping, and the train conductor in Mahogany.
They're on the train the whole time.
Yeah, it's basically like the last. Story? Yeah, in the original story, it's basically just like the last scene. It's just Mahogany. I mean, main character's on a train. He's not a photographer in the story. He's just a guy coming home from work. They never say what his job is, and he falls asleep on a train. And he knows that there was another sleeping guy on there, but he thought he missed his stop when he woke up. But when he woke up, the missing guy was gone, and he didn't miss his stop. So he's like, "How did that guy disappear in between train stops?" And then he walks over to the door that would be like the connector door. And he slid, fell on his ass, looks down, there's blood. And he looks through the window of the door and sees Mahogany doing what he does. Mahogany comes to the door, then they start fighting, like the last scene in the movie, and he ends up stabbing him in the neck. And then the doors open, the creatures come in, and we're like, well, he's getting old. You're the new guy now. That's the whole,
very matter of fact.
That's the whole short story.
So because it is so condensed and concise, like in the story, yeah, you can perceive it as Mahogany enjoying what he's doing, because in the first 30 minutes we perceive him as enjoying what he's doing. That's how it's written, like he's gonna look that way. So that makes sense. So really props to writer Jeff Buller, who wrote the entire film, because he literally, wrote everything before the last 10 minutes of this movie. So I love that that whole thing being expounded upon, because when I realized like all these characters were being added, like I thought we at least would have seen Leon's character, the main character, live life a little bit by himself. We don't see him living life at all. He's literally just on the train and then dies. So that's really interesting. That's pretty amazing.
I think they could have dealt without the girlfriend character, though. Just replace her with cocaine and put the money on the screen.
Yeah, I think actually now with that in mind, he could have been left out for sure. But we needed the blonde, skinny chick in 2008.
Yeah, I guess.
Who was that? For no reason. That character. It could not help in a fight. Been alone. And then him with the whole vegetarian thing. Fine, be vegetarian. That added to it a little bit. But yeah, struggle with your vegetarianism and cocaine and whatever else at home, and that'll be enough. Yes, I agree. Very good.
But the name of the movie, so you mentioned Texas Chainsaw earlier. I always wanted there for there to be like a midnight meat train, like the very end, they do what they do, but like I wanted there to be like that moment in the new Texas Chainsaw movie where Leatherface goes onto the bus and he just massacres everyone. There was never really like a huge massacre moment. You know what I mean? Like where he just came into a train car and just started bashing heads left and right. Like that's what would have really made this movie like an all-time classic to me. If it was just like a bloodbath massacre on train, like and it could have been kind of like Terror Train in a way, where now we have Leon just running and trying to hide from him and then finding the monsters. Honestly, now that I know that the story didn't leave the train, I think they could have really fed into that and had him
stayed on the train,
calling someone from the train or something. I think creating the whole backstory like loses some of the what makes this story strong. In its most primal state, obviously, because if Clive Barker wrote it like that, I think that's how it should have been followed more so.
Yeah. We ended up getting that train slaughter though almost over a decade later in The Sadness, because now when I rewatch this movie, I just think about The Sadness and how much I want to watch that after this. That would be a great double feature. This
Sadness
movie
is
plus
crazy.
The Sadness. Yes, that train mass killing is amazing. Yes.
Davis, I don't have a problem with women in the film.
There was a comment. I don't know if you put it up. It was from The Living Bog.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, I'll
consuming.
Yeah, that's a good one. I read that before.
That's what I was like trying to say, but they wrote it better.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
It's not too far.
Anybody? Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. Anybody want to expound upon that? Go right ahead.
Well, you could also use it as like a metaphor for capitalism too, because our system kind of doesn't work unless there are people that are paid less.
Yes.
And there are, there's a difference in currencies. Like that's why they keep moving, manufacturing to different countries where they can pay less until they finally find the type of robots they really want. Because that limits all that. If you can get some robots that work for free, then you really are popping. But yeah. I hope that made sense.
It makes sense why they would be on. Maybe that's why they made it subway people.
Yeah.
Low,
kind of like in Us, where the people were in the tunnels were the lower class, like literally lower class.
Right.
Because the lower class that we even see on screen is just those ruffians trying to mess with that young girl, but we don't even see any of that really in the movie. It's just represented. All we really see on camera are middle class or more people on camera, because in the subway we would have seen more people just hanging out, but it was really pristine and clean, which kind of added to the cinematography, like we were talking about in the chat while watching the movie. It has that real gritty look without kind of being gritty in a way.
Right. Yeah.
The most unrealistic thing about it was that the subway was empty the entire time. We could have lizard people, we could have supernatural, but you are not going to walk onto a subway at 3 a.m. and it's going to be empty. It's not happening.
12 million people in New York.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that they made it
subways.
And he had so much time to clean up all the bodies.
Where's Penn Station? Like Penn Station smells like pee on just a general day.
You ain't power washing any of that out.
They do mention in the short story that Mahogany lives on the 12th floor, and the founding fathers say that they built the city. So I don't know whether they just feed underground and maybe they live somewhere else. But Mahogany's living very nicely. Like when they describe his apartment and everything in the short story, that he's on a 12th floor. He's got beautiful suits. He's paid really well to do what he does.
Right. It's important.
Being paid well or getting taken care of, whatever you want to call it, because he's literally going subway to apartment to butcher shop, whatever you want to call it. He's being held prisoner for sure, just despite the digs, you know what I mean, in my mind. But in the story, it's interesting because it is a short story, but I'm sure if that story was written out to be a longer story, we'd learn that he is sad about what he's doing. At least I'd hope. After being stuck
in communism. No, you have to say it like that. Who was that comedian from the 80s? It was in Russia. In Russia, they don't even have I forgot.
I wasn't gonna say the C word right now, but
I forgot about it.
Yeah. I am a storehouse of useless 80s information.
Me too.
So Triaglodites, is that their name in the story for real, or is this a different name for it?
No, they're literally called the founding fathers.
What's a troglodyte? What something,
it's kind of like it's kind of like a Neanderthal, but like less developed.
Wow.
Okay.
That word's so close to triglyceride, it just
it is though. Yeah. It is. So what would you rank? So you probably have not seen every single Clive Barker adaptation. Maybe you have, I don't know. But where would you rank this in the adaptations that you've seen that you've liked? We'll start with Chris.
Let me see. Well, what are we comparing it to? See, that's where
anything you've ever watched that's Clive Barker related.
Yeah.
Or even if it's like, well, no, just Clive Barker related. Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I think that was the problem with it. I don't think I've enjoyed it as much as other Clive Barker adaptations.
Okay.
Is it Rawhead Rex plus or minus?
Please say plus.
Please
say plus.
I have a soft spot for Rawhead Rex.
I know you could.
You would, Lady Shasha. You would.
Because I was the perfect age to see it. I was like 8 years old, so I loved it. I have nostalgia gogoggles for that movie.
You do.
I like Rawhead Rex too. See, that's a bad comparison. But that was great.
And so, as far as like Clive Barker adaptations go, like you think Hellraiser, Candyman, like Nightbreed is like on the border of being is it good or bad. Rawhead Rex is on that. Is it border of good or bad? Right. So, is this better than one of those two?
No,
I think the question.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
No, not better than Rawhead Rex.
It's better than Lord of Illusions. So,
I see when you put it like that.
So if you're on Letterboxd, how many stars are you going to give Rawhead Rex and how many stars are you going to give Midnight Meat Train on Letterboxd? Let me know. Or on IMDb.
I think Rawhead. I think it's about even with Rawhead.
Yeah, kind of. Like 3.5.
But that's just because Rawhead Rex has the 80s factor to it. You know, movies in the 80s had a different feel. You know, maybe I'm just a little show a little favoritism to that decade, but Nightbreed, Nightbreed takes it up a notch. Nightbreed's a little, Nightbreed goes a little further away, and then I think everything else does after that, Hellraiser.
So how about Candyman? What are your feelings about Candyman?
Yeah, see, I love Candyman. I love Candyman.
Is it above Rawhead Rex?
Candyman's definitely above Rawhead.
Okay.
See, there's a lot.
Very good, very good.
Many other things to compare it to.
JDN, what's up, my friend? Hello. How you doing? Very good. Okay, so next person, same question. How does Midnight Meat Train rank in your other Clive Barker viewings that you've seen so far?
Are we going any sort of order?
Albert. I'll go with Albert. Let's go with Albert.
Okay. So I'm not a huge Clive Barker fan.
Sure.
But for me, I'd probably put it right there. I'm going 1 to 10. I'd put it at a 5 because I enjoyed it. I think all the acting was good. It kept me going. The thing that threw me off was the twist seemed, although I really appreciated and liked it, came across corny to me, and I wanted to see those monsters in my face more. I want a little bit more detail when I see those things. That's the thing that's supposed to get you, right? So it's like, sell me more on that.
No, I feel you, because throughout the film, you were super excited for all the bloody stuff. You were really engaged. And then to have you then turn around and give it a 5 because we got so much new information at the end that wasn't explained makes sense. It's unfortunate because you're on this high and you just kind of got knocked off the freaking boat. You got your wind knocked out of your sails because, it was like, well, then what? Like, thanks for giving me this 2-minute scene where things get explained a little bit, but that is exactly why we absolutely needed a sequel. And I think it was just an executive producer higher ups bullshit thing that kept us from getting that sequel because it wasn't written as a trilogy or anything like that, but it was just so obviously meant to be at least more than one movie. So I appreciate that viewpoint. But since this was your first time, hopefully your second or third time, you just know that it's coming and can maybe appreciate it more later because for me, Candyman is my absolute favorite. Anything that he's, had adapted into a film. But I do appreciate Hellraiser because I like Hellraiser. I think that was why I was able to do this weird shift at the end of the movie and appreciate it. So I get that.
What about you, where do you place it with the other ones?
Me?
Yeah. Where?
So definitely Candyman is first, okay. And so yeah, it is, I think, a tie between Hellraiser and Midnight Meat Train, but because I'm just such a sucker for 90s, late 90s, especially, and 2000s movies. Like, that's my era. That's when I just really just started to love things with a passion.
Right.
You know, because I love stuff from the 70s and 80s, but when I watched them as a kid, like, I wasn't like, oh my God, I just watched them offhandedly and was like, oh, that's cheap looking, you know? But then I loved the stuff from the late 90s and 2000s, loved it. And then when I got older, then that's when I really started to appreciate stuff from the 80s, 70s, and beyond. But it never really held that special place in my heart like a lot of these movies do. So yeah, of all the ones that I've seen, Lady Shasha and I recently saw Lord of Illusions. Well, it was my first time anyway, with our other group that we do monthly live streams with, where we do our guilty pleasures, where this round is guilty pleasures. And one of our buddies did Lord of Illusions as his guilty pleasure. So I seen that, Rawhead Rex, one or two others here, and yeah, hold on, let me see, let me just make extra sure. Yeah, so this would definitely be tied, basically, I think, with Hellraiser, with Candyman at the very top.
You have your spreadsheet in front of you with all the rating and the exact score. You have like
yes, I have notes, columns. Frank. I do have notes. Thank you. Because I do have things mixed around and things. So yes, I do have to write shit down.
no, I'm saying it in a positive way. I'm totally. I'm even saying, like, maybe you have a spreadsheet of the different reasons why you love different movies.
That's yes, amazing. I have like one movie and like 10 different spreadsheets for the different notes I have about that one movie.
So an argument I've been making, I made this about a monster movie recently, I forget who it was, and I feel like this movie falls perfectly in that argument, is it didn't know what it wanted to be. It didn't know if it wanted to be Candyman or if it wanted to be Nightbreed. And I wanted it to be Nightbreed. I wanted it to be the monsters show up and you see every single creature and every single, but instead it skirted the lines in between the two, and it never quite found its voice because of that, I feel like.
I wanted
I think
Rawhead Rex
movie. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to be a Taxi Driver by Clive Barker.
There you go. Because people, I think, were pulled in those directions, which I think was also part of its demise, because they were expecting one thing, or they were getting one thing for so long, expecting another, and then were given another. So yeah, I think that's totally valid to feel let down in that way, for sure. All right, KT, where do you rank this one in Clive Barker's adaptations?
Well, it's definitely below Hellraiser, Candyman, and Nightbreed. So somewhere in the middle, probably 4th, 5th, 6th.
Okay. Fair. Right. Yeah, I actually just watched Nightbreed for this stream, and yeah, Nightbreed was fun. I enjoyed it. It was good. I liked Porcupine Chick. She was fun. Yeah.
I think it factors in when you watched it. Like I said, maybe if you grew up in the 80s and you watched
it, could be.
It's going to be hard to put newer films, but it might take a while. Like you said, you hold these movies so high, you know, in your head, that when you see something new, it's kind of hard to take it for what it is, and that's why a few years later you'll appreciate.
That's a good point, because we don't sit with movies like the way we used to. Now there's like 6 new movies a week or something, you know.
DeRay kept saying that people watching this a second or third time, they'll like it more. And to Chris's point, it's like, you need to, like, did we love Hellraiser the first time? We probably didn't understand it the first time.
Like, but it was cool.
Right. It was like, what are all these visuals? What's going on?
Yeah, you have to have watched it 10 times to love Hellraiser. So yeah, in 15 years, when we're doing this again and watching Midnight Meat Train again, it's going to be a classic. We're going to be like, well, we always loved it. Did we?
Exactly, because like you just said, we had a whole year to watch Hellraiser 10 times before the next thing that we absolutely loved came out. But now you're literally having to watch maybe 1 or 2 movies that you love that are coming out every month. So yeah, it's definitely difficult to be able to digest the good things that you see, because the good things that you see sometimes, just get forgotten because of all the other good things that are out there.
Right. Way more horror films coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
I also think it depends on what age you are when you see different things, because I did love Hellraiser, but I saw it on HBO when I was 14, so that was like the perfect time. If I had first seen it at like maybe 25, I'd be like, that's, you know. But like even with the Rawhead Rex thing, we were into that from the video store, and I just I got my life off of that as a kid. I don't know.
Well, I probably watched Hellraiser even younger. That was probably I was probably like 12 years old, 10 years old, 11, something like that. Definitely, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. When you watch Hellraiser when you're 10 or 11, I may have been like 14 when I first watched it. You really don't get it.
Oh yeah, I didn't understand any of the subtext. I just saw Cenobites and the blue light coming through the slats. It creeped me out.
Yeah, like
but watching it as an adult is totally different experience.
Or like the creepiness factors or stuff. So like when you watch it again when you're 25, you're like, holy crap, what?
Watching it for the first time with it in a different set of eyes.
State of mind, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like when Uncle Frank says it's me, Uncle Frank, and licks his lips at Kirsty, like that went completely over my head when I was a kid. But as an adult, I'm like,
thank God it went completely over your head as a kid.
You're right, Bob.
It sure was. Even for a lot of adults, children and adults, they watch that and are like, oh, okay. I might want to explore that a little bit. So with that being said, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna I forgot to give my order.
Oh yeah,
this movie would probably be 5th in order.
Oh no.
Hellraiser and Candyman are tied for first, so I'm gonna say first and second, but they're like equal to me. I love them both, and they're both masterpieces in their own way.
Sure.
I would definitely see Nightbreed, the director's cut, because it gives a lot more context to the story. And I'm still gonna say that Rawhead Rex is, to me, I'm gonna rewatch Rawhead Rex before I rewatch the Midnight Meat Train. But it is better than Lord of Illusions. I think this is way better than Lord of Illusions.
Okay.
But speaking of going over the head, the reason why I still love Rawhead Rex again is not just the nostalgia goggles. Now that I think about it, that movie had the balls to kill a little kid. Like the kid was like 8. He killed it. And then I realized as an adult that Rawhead Rex was not pouring water on that man. He was baptizing him in pee. And I can't, I have to respect it.
You also had a Candyman story or a Tony Todd story.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm from Connecticut. I live in Florida now, but I'm from Connecticut. And my mother and my uncle, when they were in elementary school, they lived on the same block as Tony Todd in Hartford, Connecticut. And the funniest thing is that my uncle used to tease Tony Todd because he would say, "Oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be an actor." And my uncle would be like, "You're not going to be an actor." And so I didn't know this until I'm like older. I'm in college, and my mother's cousin's over, and she's like, "Oh, my friend Tony's going to call. Let me know when they call." And I was like, "Okay, who's this Tony?" And he's like, "Tony Todd." And I'm like, "No, you mean the Tony Todd?" "Yeah." And I didn't believe him. I'm like, "You're just making that up." He dead ass had Tony Todd call my grandmother's phone and say Helen. Shit just scared the crap out of me. I was like 17 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Say your first name. I don't think I've ever actually heard your first name, your real first name, said out loud.
Oh, my first name? It's not in English. It's pronounced Klalaleni.
Okay, but it sometimes it looks like Helena, right?
Yeah, the H is pronounced. Well, I'm saying it more in anglicized American way. In South Africa, it actually has a click at the beginning, so it'll be like Laleni. And
so was it kind of similar to your grandma's name a little bit? Is that what's
Oh
up?
no. My name actually comes from my godfather. I have my father's friend when I was born was a professor of African studies at UMass, and my father was teaching metal sculpture, and they couldn't think of a name for me because I was overdue. My mother was like, "Carry me, it's almost going beyond 10 months." And he was like, "Well, my youngest sister, her name is this, and it means, what are you waiting for?" And so my mother was like, "Oh, I love that name. I'm gonna give her that name." And the funniest thing about it is, my whole life I had to spell my name out. I've gone on job interviews and people are like, "Oh, when did you arrive in America?" And I'm like, "I'm from here." My mother's name is Jennifer. And she said she hated that, so many people have this name. It's one of the most common names ever. And she was like, "I'm not going to have my children have a common name." But she might have overcorrected. And it's like, now I got to spell my... I was in the ER one time. They're like, "How do you pronounce that?" And I'm like, "I'm dying."
Don't worry.
Yeah. For context, I wasn't really dying. I had food poisoning, it turns out. But still.
Yeah, but for all you knew.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
How do you pronounce that? You should have said, "Just call me Jennifer."
Yeah. And the reason why I got the nickname Shasha is my mother's father, whose name is James, very simple names, could not pronounce my name. And so he kept on saying Shalalani and then shortened it to Shasha, like a little baby name. And then, family, your cousins, they're always going to call you that. Like, if your name is Nicholas, you're going to be Nikki forever. That type of thing. So I'm Shasha. And I added lady on it because most of the social media was already taken. So I said, well, I got to add something in front of it.
For my poker name on the Nintendo Switch in Four Kings, I'm Lady D for DeRay. How did
you get the name DeRay? Because you're the first DeRay I've ever met.
Yeah, literally my dad, who's from North Carolina, a black man, just was going through his yearbook, didn't know this girl, but saw the name and was like, "I like that name." And he named me DeRay, some French white lady that he never met before. So yeah, but he was, I guess, in the same, they went to the same high school because that's where he found the name and literally just liked it, but wasn't friends with her or anything like that. So it wasn't like I was named after her necessarily because he didn't know her. So, but yeah, he just liked the name and wrote that down on the birth certificate. That's about it. All right, so back to the Midnight Meat Train off of our names here. So yeah, any other thoughts that we had about the Midnight Meat Train that we haven't shared yet? Chris, Frank, KT, Blood and Brews.
It kind of reminds me of that weird conspiracy theory of the airport with all the tunnels that were built on the the Denver
airport.
The Denver airport with
my airport.
Oh my God.
We have the blue Lucifer horse hanging out outside of the freaking airport, and it literally has red eyes, and it's literally blue, called Lucifer. Wow. I guess because of these tunnels. It's so weird.
New World Airplane. Doesn't it say like something new, something on underneath the horse, or whatever it says, like New World Airport? It says something weird.
I haven't been there yet, but yeah, I was watching some YouTube videos about it. It says and does something. It's interesting. I've been wanting to do a video on it ever since we even thought about moving here. But yeah, it's really interesting. I'm curious to learn more about it.
Albert, though, like, what do you think? Like, how do you think it tied to the movie? Like, what aspects of it?
Honestly, I just went down the rabbit hole one day and kept watching those videos. You keep going one to the other to the other. And I want to say they were like saying that the tunnels were tied to like the reptilian type people. And so you're just like, okay, here we go, whatever. But you keep playing the video anyways, right? Because you're just curious. Like, what kind of BS are they going to try and push now? But it was interesting. I don't know.
Then eventually you get to Mel's Hole. You've seen that video.
Right. My manager at work one day comes in and he starts talking about flat Earth videos. He's like, "I swear to God, I don't believe in them." But you just listen to him and you start, and I'm like, "Sure, you don't believe in them, bro."
Yo. So me and Frank have our hands up. Who else has talked to a real live flat earther?
I have he won't admit that he is one, but if he's sitting there preaching it, he is one.
It is so. I've talked to more than one. I had one, like, no, they both showed me freaking YouTube videos. No, just watch this. But if you just listen to this, and I'm like, bruh, no, like, this is insane. That's some real scary. Like, make a movie about that shit. People believing in flat Earth and then doing the things that a flat earther would do. whatever that is, like that is a true horror film. It's like Idiocracy. Idiocracy is a real life horror film without being a freaking horror film.
I live in that. I remember I'm in Florida. This is
yeah, girl. I just don't understand it.
Yes.
You and your man got to get the hell up out of there real quick. I know you got things to take care of and things like that, but you got to get out there real quick whenever you can.
Well, we're all kind of sitting around waiting to see how Disney is gonna I'm going to say something, but not get in trouble for saying it, because like that mouse doesn't play, and we've said before that
we're just waiting to see if Disney can beat the U.S. government.
Yeah, our governor might just be found in Everglades in a plane crash, messing with Disney. Like I don't know what he was thinking. What are you thinking?
If I could not live in Mexico, I would go to Florida. But right now, if I had to go somewhere tropical and I didn't want to be in any cold weather or Texas ever again, I would have to go to Mexico. I can't go to Florida. I want to go to Florida, but I can't. I have to go to Mexico if that's the kind of life I want to live, unfortunately. And it's terrible. It's unfortunate.
Unless you stay in the blue dot. I'm in Orlando. We're the blue dot inside the red. But if you go outside of Orlando,
that's where we were in Texas. Austin was the blue dot, but Austin I think was less blue than Orlando, I guess, because Austin was just getting out of hand too.
The only thing that we're having a difficulty with Orlando now is because we have so many Californians and New Yorkers coming to Orlando, as well as like the influx of after the last hurricane, we got a large amount of people from Puerto Rico. They're awesome, but the New Yorkers, you got to stop throwing trash out of your car.
No, you're not even. It's no joke. It's no joke. I moved to Texas. The first thing I noticed was there was no trash on the side.
Yeah, we don't have.
I was like, "Where's all the trash?" Because from New York, I'm just so used to seeing it. I was like almost a shock that people didn't do it.
Yeah, and the Californians. You're driving up the price. We didn't have. There was no such thing as like a $5 smoothie until the Californians came. Stuff that was
acai berry smoothie.
Yeah, it's magically super expensive because and now they got everybody building these not high rise. They don't go really above 4 or 5 stories in Orlando, but the luxury apartments that I don't know who's gonna live here. Who's going to pay $4,000 a month for rent in Orlando when you could basically have a mortgage for like $1,500 or less?
For real.
It doesn't even make sense. But okay.
So that's the question I remember that I was going to ask. So tell me what y'all thought about the Hellraiser remake, since we all seem to really like and love Hellraiser. What did y'all think about the remake?
I have not seen it yet. So.
Oh, are you okay with spoilers? Does it happen right now?
I don't care.
Okay.
Creature design, I love the Cenobites because they are closer to the book description. Even with the Cenobite being like in the book, the Pinhead is described as having a feminine voice, and that the Frank couldn't tell whether they were male or female. So that was perfect to have a trans actor play someone that would be a little bit androgynous, because that's the way they're described in the book. The characters, though, I didn't care for, like the Druggy Bay. I don't care about her. I didn't like her or her brother.
What's her name? Riley or Rudy? What was
it? I'm like, these people are not likable. I don't care if the Cenobites get them.
Right, the movie fell flat in general for me. And I feel like after Us and Get Out, like everyone's trying to kind of direct this same type of movie. Like even the Candyman remake and the Candyman remake didn't do it for me either.
Me neither.
Remake,
not everyone is Jordan Peele, and like not everyone can make that movie. And so like it's like you got to respect the power when the movie is actually made. Like Get Out is so powerful, but then like other people are just trying to emulate it, and when it falls flat, it really falls flat. And that's what I think that's what Hellraiser was for me a little bit. Is like it was just they were trying too hard and it didn't reach that pinnacle they were aiming for.
I totally agree with you with the Candyman remake, because with how much I loved it, it just didn't feel that expectation. I think even without expectation, even if I just kind of liked it, I wouldn't have been really fulfilled with that Candyman. Even though it was beautiful, it was a good story, just had it not been named Candyman, I probably would have liked it. But with the Hellraiser remake, I did enjoy that. It brought me back kind of to I guess a 2000s feel in a way, and I did like our drug addict lead. Her name starts with an R. I'm forgetting it. I I related to her a little bit, not necessarily because of her addict tendencies, wherever you want to go with that, whatever. I related to her, and yeah, I loved the design of the Cenobites, and I loved the effects, and I loved how the puzzle was just different. I loved I guess the what's the word? Not the advancement, what's the word I'm looking for, but the evolution, I guess, of how the puzzle was. Yeah. And that was fun to me. I'm looking forward to the next one, hopefully from the same director, but if not, I'm looking forward to that story continuing. How did you like the new Hellraiser, Albert?
Honestly, I didn't see it.
Okay, no worries. It's not a requirement in the horror world, so it's totally okay.
They definitely needed.
Do you like it, Chris?
And
in Candyman, or in Hellraiser.
Okay. Also, it undermined its own point. The original Candyman was making a point not only about because honestly, the original Candyman was woke. The way Clive Barker wrote it was, I should say wrote the screenplay was woke, because the screenplay is different from the original story. The original story takes place somewhere in England, and Candyman was just like this red-haired white dude. But when they moved it to America, it was still about classism, but within like how British classism is. And in America, with classism, you can't necessarily separate classism from race, because sometimes the two overlap depending on the situation. And that original movie was talking about Helen learning about what was done, like with the apartment buildings being the same exact apartment buildings, but one is designated a project and the other is designated a condo based on just geographic location on either side of the bridge, but being identical in structure. Now, where they messed up with the new Candyman, I think what they were trying to do was still present the whole gentrification aspect, but now the new Black people are gentrifiers, because they're not from that area either, and they come from a middle class background. They're not respecting things. Like, he was making money off of painting portraits of Black suffering. It's like, dude, you know how problematic that is? But then the movie undermines its own point by making the new Candyman I think that the gentleman, not only was he already missing a hand, I think he was mentally challenged. And I'm like,
was he the new one?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that's why he didn't answer the police's commands right away, because he was mentally challenged, and they shot him. And so they make him the new Candyman. And I'm like, that's kind of messed up. Like, that's not. No, that's you undermine your own point.
Yeah.
I didn't see the new.
Yeah, you didn't.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just spoiled the whole.
No.
I didn't spoil the final scene though.
I was just putting it out there. I didn't say it. I know my fault. I hear anyway, so it's all good. But the new Hellraiser, I wasn't. I don't know. It felt kind of flat for me too.
Have any of y'all seen Downrange? Nice segue, right?
Like that's the one where it's like the slasher is a sniper.
Yeah, there you go. So so that's what we're watching next. It's by the same director as Midnight Meat Train, Ryuhei Kitamura. It's I think his second English language movie, and he's done a third, and I haven't seen it yet, and I really need to. But yeah, it's just a car breaks down. The whole movie just begins. Car breaks down. They realize that their tire got shot out. They're all outside the car. One of their friends' brains gets fucking blown out. And they're like, what the fuck? And the whole movie's them hiding from the sniper. It's fucking nuts. And so, awesome. Yeah, we're going to throw that on. I figure we're about wrapping this up. So I said we started at about 8:30 in about 15 minutes.
Perfect.
In the Discord. And then afterwards, just for shits and giggles, this wasn't part of the original plan, but we're going to watch Versus, which is the director's first movie, which is a samurai zombie gangster movie. Wow. If you could put together 3 more obscure, weird genres, it's some gangsters that bring someone into the woods to kill them. But when they go to kill them, zombies attack and they all jump out with swords and start fighting. It's fucking so wild.
It should have been, been a musical too.
Yeah, I mean, that would be one of the coolest musicals ever.
Dancing, singing at the same time.
So yeah, this has been so much freaking fun. We should do this. Like, what is the plans, DeRay? How often do we plan on doing this?
Well, hopefully, you know, I would say either monthly or bi-monthly, and then we just rotate creators. So every other month, and if more, great. We just rotate who hosts, and we can just watch a movie and talk about it afterwards. That'd be great.
That's awesome. And we could have different members of the community. If anyone else in the Monster Fam Discord server wants to be part of this, like KT and Chris and I we're not YouTube hosts. We are just horror fans. So if y'all want to take our places next time in this conversation, feel free. We would rather
not
just
necessarily even take your place. Take your place, sure, but if you, because hopefully Chris and Frank join us every other month or every month or whenever. Like if Lady Shasha wants to host next time, we get whoever else wants. Like take your place too. But
just alternate. If anyone else in the community wants to be part of the conversation,
always
it can be like
to join it. Yeah,
that sounds fun.
Definitely.
So like we were mentioning, just hit the description links down below. You'll see the server links. You'll also see links to all of our channels, Blood and Brews, Shasha, and other members who weren't here today. They also have their links down there as well. So that's a good wrapping up point. Let's go ahead and wrap things up here. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. And if you want to come join us for the next 2 movies, feel free. Again, the links for the Discord server are down below. And so real quick, let's do some plugs for Shasha and Albert and the Monster Fam. So Lady Shasha, let us know what have you got going on your channel or other people's channels, or let us know what's going on in the internet world for you.
Well, tomorrow night I'm going to be on Terrence Miguena's channel with
Terrence
with Curly Girl from the movies and the Ice Lord, or I Am the Ice Lord as Wes's screen name, and we're going to be talking about the best gore in horror movies.
Wow! Nice. That's always a great conversation.
Mm-hmm. And then on my channel, I'm doing Summer of Slashers because I've been slacking on slasher movies and I just feel like watching a lot of slasher movies. So that's what I'm doing. I did get to see a screener last night of The Blackening. So I'll have that review coming up next week. And hopefully I'll be also including a few black slasher movies that I found and also a few gay slasher movies that I found.
Hell yeah. That's what's up. Awesome. I cannot wait to see The Blackening. It's gonna be so good.
It was so good. Well, as far as comedy, it was really, really good.
Okay, comedy I can do. Awesome. Okay, Albert, what do you've got coming up, or what did you just release recently?
I got coming up, me and Salem Seller did a review. We rewatched The Shining and we kind of talk about that, and the Dr. Sleep remake or sequel, whatever you want to call it, and
it's a sequel,
right? And it kind of it answered a lot of the questions from the first one, kind of like the Midnight Meat Train, like it raised all those questions, right? The Shining raised all these questions for us, and then I feel like Dr. Sleep kind of comes in and answers, like, what is The Shining, what is all these other things. So we're going to get into that a little bit, and it's fun. So that should be coming out next Wednesday, probably.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And besides tonight's screenings, the last 2 movies for the evening, what else do we got coming up for the Monster Fam?
So every Monday we do Monster Monday. We've been powering through the Universal horror movies every Monday night for the past 35 weeks. We're almost done. There's only 40 of them. And so we're about to hit the Abbott and Costello ones, which is like, believe it or not, I feel like that's going to draw a bigger crowd. Like towards the middle, we got kind of boring. You got Frankenstein and Dracula at the beginning, and then what the heck do you have in the middle? You have
Mummy's Hands.
Wednesdays we do Primetime Horror, which is classic TV shows. We started with Freddy's Nightmares and Friday the 13th, but now we're up to a show called Werewolf and Monsters. We just finished Tales from the Dark Side, and then Friday night we just choose different movies every week. Members of the community will choose, or if no one chooses, I'll pick, or Chris will pick, or whoever. Saturday's KT hosts. He left us a little early. I'm sure one of his kids or his wife were probably dragging him down. Like, what are you doing? You've been doing this live stream for an hour and 20 minutes now.
You've already been doing this for 2 hours. Yeah.
And then Sundays, our buddy Kill hosts a animated evening. So pretty much almost every night of the week, we have something going on. Like DeRay said, the link is in the notes below, or you can go to Chris's Twitter handle, which is @MutantTheater, and you can find the link to our Discord.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. You want to add anything, Chris?
No, everything Frank said is 100% true. Being very honest.
Very
good.
It's
great. It's great. Almost, I think the only nights we don't do something are what, Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we'll probably keep it that way. We need a night, not, just.
So listen, if anybody wants to come on, if anybody wants to come to the server and stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, bring it on.
They have a movie that they want to show somebody that they can't show any of their friends. The Monster Fam will watch it with you.
Oh,
yeah, that's such a good way of putting it, DeRay. Because like Hazy, who might still be in the chat right now, but Hazy came into the Discord like a week ago, and he's like, "Hey, I'm about to watch Malum. Does anyone want to watch with me?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Me and him watched it alone, alone together, but it wasn't like 20 of us. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's 20 of us, or sometimes it's me and Hazy. But like at the end of the day, like, what was I gonna do? Watch it by myself, or was he gonna watch it by himself? No, there's always one other person there that'll sit there and be like, "Holy shit, did you see that eye pop out of the head?" And you're like, "Yeah." That's what we're there for. We're all there to like watch movies as a big group, or even just like by ourselves, like in a very small group.
Right.
Yep. Very true. Yes, I love it. Yeah, it does feel nice and warm and cozy when you're
there.
In
he
there
is. Hazy just said hello. I'm sorry.
Yes. Very good. Yes. And so for me, like I said earlier, this evening, I did a video recently with Blood and Brews. So check out his channel for that video. He and I talked about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And Lady Shasha and I will be doing another Guilty Pleasures episode very soon once our filmmaker friend Jose comes back from his feature film production. We'll get back on track, and we'll have 2 more people to discuss their guilty pleasures, which I think is Julian, and then I think I am last. So that'll be coming up here this summer. And I also just recently did a collaboration with Fever Dreamland Theater. He just dropped his video between the 2 of us where we talked about 3 moments that really got us into horror. You can find the link for that video in my community tab, as well as on my Instagram and Twitter. So definitely check that out. And I am currently working on a video essay talking about one of my favorite films, Titan, Julia Tacarno's second feature film. So keep an eye out for that video. And yeah, so that wraps up all of our plugs here. And again, thank you to KT, Albert, Lady Shasha, Frank, and Chris. I appreciate all of y'all so much for joining me for this first fun Monster Fam stream, live stream, or screening of the movie, then live stream afterwards. And yes, we'll definitely keep this going. So thank you again to everybody.
Thanks for the invite.
So much.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes. Albert with this little nasty hand. All right, Stardust. Good night, and we'll see you next time. Peace.